Wow. What's up, fight fans? Main man, me, man here. Y'all know how I get down. We talking boxing, man. What up to the fam? What up to everybody at Main Man, me, man's boxing form? Hey, look, man, the thing is this. We got to talk about my main man, Keith. The return of one-time Thurman. As he coming on back on March 30th to take on Tim Tszyu, WBO champion, fight fans, at a catch weight of 155 pounds. And it's going to be Premier Boxing Champions rolling out their first card of the year, part of their deal with the Amazon Prime. And look, man, it is what it is, bro. Keith is going to be coming back to do this fight, man. And I'm like, what? Where the hell did this come from? Where the hell did this come from? Now, I'm going to keep it 100, man. Listen, would I have preferred to see these dudes do other things? 100%. I would have preferred to see Keith Thurman versus Jerome Boots Ennis. I think Jerome Boots Ennis would have been better serviced to beat Keith Thurman as opposed to fighting Mario Barrios, which is being rumored and reported right now. I think that the Keith Thurman name would have just done better for Boots. And honestly, with Tim Tszyu, I would have preferred to see either Terrence Crawford or Erickson Lubin, which their negotiations broke down. I just would have rather seen those paths, but Premier Boxing Champions decides to go in this direction. Now, that's not on Keith Thurman, though. Keith Thurman ain't here to worry about what's going on with Terrence Crawford or any other fighter, Charlo or any other fighter. Listen, it's all about his opportunity. And so I know a lot of Crawford fans may not be happy to see this move. Hell, I'm not happy. And I always wonder why Premier Boxing Champions never cooperate with Terrence Crawford, right? But that's not Keith Thurman's concern. So he should march on looking forward to this fight and trying to get that W. Well, we got an inactive Keith Thurman, man, been out of the ring for a couple years. And knowing that Keith Thurman is an aging fighter, going up to a weight class that he hasn't fought at since very, very early on in his career, and then doing it at a catch weight, y'all. Crazy, huh? Now, keep in mind, man, the reason that they doing this at a catch weight mainly is because, look, it's a lot of repercussions around this situation. Remember, Tim Tszyu is really due for a mandatory. And this is the reason that the WBO was waiting on Terrence Crawford to see what decision he wanted to make, because he could have moved up to 54 and became instantly the Mando to that belt. And so Tim Tszyu is technically due for a Mando, not to mention other fighters were in better positions. Keith Thurman ain't ranked at the class, ain't fought at the class in forever, you know what I mean? So has no really interest with the WBO. Years ago called their title the WB No when he was asked to face Terrence Crawford. So listen, man, it didn't make any sort of sense. And so the WBO is not sanctioning this fight, and so it's happening at a catch weight. That ain't gonna stop Premier Boxing Champions. It don't matter if a belt involved. They never been really heavily, into the WBO like that anyway. So this is nothing new from them, man. They're gonna still march on with this fight. Now, as for Tim Tszyu, it's interesting. If he loses to Keith Thurman, I think that still really means he'll still be the champion. Unless the WBO decides to strip him for whatever reason. But technically, if he loses to Keith Thurman, and he technically will still hold on to that WBO belt. He needs that piece in order to leverage a fight with Jermell Charlo. It's pretty much the only thing that maybe Jermell Charlo would be interested in to face Tim Tszyu. You know what I mean? Jermell Charlo is more interested in looking at Terrence Crawford than I think he is in Tim Tszyu. Just listen to him after his last fight. You know what I mean? So listen, man, it's happening at a catch weight for Keith, and this is different, bro. Very, very different. Keith is going to need his mobility for this fight, man. His legs going to have to be working. We know Keith is weak to the body. We've seen it so many times. And the scary thing about this, y'all, is that Tim Tszyu is a body snatcher. The dude can crack to the body, man. Real spill, bro. And he's methodical, man. He always works those body shots into his fights. He's a combination puncher. He'll mix it upstairs and downstairs, man, at portions of the fight. And he's a good puncher. All of these things are kind of scary for an aging fighter that's been inactive. And Keith, once upon a time, Thurman, you know what I mean? One time, man, Keith had it all working, bro. The perfect tool bag. Like, he's a Scottie Pippen of boxing, man. A man that can do everything well. And just, move, groove, good puncher, knowing when to hold him, knowing when to fold him, knows how to survive. Man, Keith was all that, And when he was active at 147, it looked like nobody couldn't touch him. But at this point, bro, I don't know, fight fans. I just don't know, bro. How will he deal with a hungry, momentum-filled fighter like Tim Tszyu, man? And I'm rooting for Keith here. I am. I really am, man. But this is a tough one. Now, hear me, though. I respect Keith's decision in this fight, to take this fight. Because, look, Keith want to get back in the mix, man. He don't want to be seen as the gatekeeper, clearly. He don't want to be that guy that got to be facing the young boys. You know what I'm saying? So he want to get back in the mix with the Buds and the Earls and the Charlos and the yada, yada, yadas. He has to take a fight that makes up for lost ground in a nutshell. Some may say, yo, man, that's not smart. It's not smart to go up to a class this high and not take a tune-up. I will agree with you. But this is Keith, I guess, going for it all. You know what I'm saying? Going for it all, because you can honestly say it may not be the biggest financial fight right here, right now for Keith, but a win over Tim Tszyu would put Keith very much back in the mix. And that's what Keith want to be. He want to be in a mix. Man, look, you got these little young boys from lower weight classes making fun of Keith. Man, you got Clarissa Shields out here making fun of Keith. They looking at Keith as the weakest link. Keith got to look, man. Keith is trying to get his name back. And so he is going for it all. I respect it, man. I really do. I just say, hey, listen, you know, give it your all, win, lose, or draw. At the very least, Keith want to at least go out of the sport with an image of knowing to be a fighter and not knowing to be in some dude that ducks and dodges or play flutes or get called out and cheesed by the youngsters. None of that. Like, Keith don't want that lasting image in the sport. You know what I'm saying? Fans down on him, talking down on him. So Keith is going for it all, man. He's going for it all, man, to restore his name. And his name is once, you know, at the top of the sport, fight fans. And he wants the returns. And so to that, I respect it. I respect it. If he can pull it off, man, it's going to be huge. It's going to be a comeback. It's going to be the return of Keith Thurman. And it's going to instantly make Keith a super duper major player at 154 pounds. Charlo will be forced to look his way. Spence will be forced to look his way. Was looking his way before the Earl Spence fight. I mean, before the Terrence Crawford fight. Bud would be forced to look back his way. Like, people will be forced to look back towards Keith's way if he can pull this off. Now, as for Tim Tszyu, he's doing it for name profile. Listen, Tim wants his name risen in the States. And though Erickson Lubin would have been a really, really good ass fight for Tim Tszyu, a very competitive fight, it wouldn't have been the name recognition that he wanted. A fight like this, Keith Thurman's name is much more recognizable to boxing fans than Erickson Lubin. You know what I'm saying? And people have more intrigue and perhaps curiosity into what Keith gonna look like when he come back. And it just makes the fight a little bit more hype for Tim Tszyu. You feel what I'm saying? And he wants to do this in Vegas. So this happening in Vegas, this is something that Tim always wanted. The name under the bright lights in America, you know what I mean? As the premier guy in the main event. I mean, this is everything. It checks all of the boxes that Tim has ever looked for to get out of a fight. And so now that he's kind of established this base, getting a name, being on pay-per-view, being in Vegas, the next thing is to get bigger and bigger names. That's how it's built. You feel what I'm saying? And if he gets through a Thurman, it makes him more recognizable to boxing fans, which then if you push him towards any direction, Charlo, Spence, Crawford, whatever, you know what I'm saying, Virgil Ortiz, it just makes the fight even more bigger. You hear me? So this is the reason that Tim Tszyu is excited about it, and pretty much he likes this fight. And I'm telling you, I'm intrigued by it, man. It disappoints me that my man Bud Crawford ain't involved here, but this clearly signals that there's a high chance that Bud still is looking at Earl Spence Jr. It's a lot of money in that fight fans. It's hard for either one of those fighters to walk away. The question has always been, is Premier Boxing Champions willing to pay that money?